Thanks for tuning in to the HR Uprising podcast. I'm your host, Lucinda. The HR Uprising is focused on helping forward-thinking people professionals deliver real lasting value in their organisations. I'm a chartered psychologist, speaker and trainer, and recently authored the best-selling business book, How to Be a Change Superhero. My day job is founder and CEO of software and training business Actus. This gives me the opportunity to work with other businesses like yours. We are focused on building a better workplace for people wherever they are located, with the help of our performance, learning and talent management software and our training and consultancy services. Every week on the podcast, I will be covering different topics and challenges, joined by relevant experts and real-life people professionals. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really hope you enjoy and get value from this week's episode. Hello and welcome to this week's HR Uprising podcast. And we're carrying on in our series Careers of a CPO. And I'm delighted to have Helen Ketteringham with me today. Helen, well, you can explain the organisation. NCFE is my abbreviation, but you explain where, what your role is and within the organisation you're in, because it's quite a specific educational institution, isn't it? So it's good to explain what you do. And
it is. Thank you. Yeah. So hi, and thank you for having me as a regular listener on the podcast. It's really good to be with you today. So thanks, Lucinda. So I'm Chief People Officer and I work at NCFE. So we are an education charity based in the northeast of England, 175 years old at the moment, with lots of deep heritage, based in the northeast, and the organisation's evolved. So we're an education charity primarily based in technical and vocational education, an awarding organisation in the main, and do lots of non-regulated work in our partnerships in and around the UK and beyond.
And do you just support? Are you based in the northeast, or do you support?
Based in the northeast and support, yeah, more widely.
More widely, brilliant. So, in terms of, I guess, your role within NCFE and how long you've been in the Chief People Officer role, do you want to give us a little bit of a potted history?
Yeah, sure. So just over 2 years, I've been with NCFE, and this is my first CPO role. Previous to that, 20 years in HR. So I seem to know at the young age, shall we say, of 18, that this is what I wanted to go into, having studied business studies and really liked, fascinated actually by the people and human side of things. So decided to specialise at that point, which meant that I got my degree in human resources really early on, back in 2005, and how this industry has changed so much since then. It's been a source of fascination to me. But if I think back, sort of history in sort of understanding the operations side of HR, first of all, and then moved through a number of business partnering roles. So that's been across retail and financial services. As I've moved into the education sector and into this leadership role, it's just been a really interesting journey, actually, and understanding just how industries have evolved. So I've had sort of multi-sector experience, but equally just how within HR things have changed so much. And it's key to this CPO role, probably in every organisation, that we're at the forefront of that, and play our part in that change. Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean that's a really great summary of what you've done. I suppose I've got a few follow-up questions in terms of maybe your career journey, and then you can tell us a bit more about the CPO role that you're in. So if you said you started out, did you say it was business management you did to start with, and then you?
So from I think business studies A level, it was the human resources modules, if you like, that interested me the most, and so actually decided to study human resources for my degree.
Got you. Wow, that's so early. Yeah. That's amazing. And did
really early.
And you were saying that some of it's relevant and some of it's not. Any examples of stuff that do you think that's a good start to? It's not essential. Loads of people come into HR from other routes, but is it?
They do, and there's absolute. I think we're all for squiggly careers. We come from different routes in, and we sort of make the absolute most of that and the potential that we bring. For me, I think going straight into human resources and developing within it has given me a really good technical background, so a real deep rooted understanding, and then evolving with the times, and also through different roles has been able to give me sort of that depth and breadth. In a role like CPO, it's then it's really important that I surround myself with my network internally and externally to make sure that actually I can draw on the expertise of other industries as well, because you're looking at a lot more broadly in a role like this. And actually, I've come through the HR route only. So yeah, I think it works as long as you surround yourself with those around you, and it's learn from others.
I mean, that's good principle anyway, isn't it? I mean, are there any particular areas that you think that you find it most important now you're in the CPO role to sort of network with or align yourself with?
Yeah, so I think it's across, if you think across the executive team of any organisation and charity in our case, it's really understanding the different disciplines that make that up, working together, and we're all for collaboration, aren't we? That is the best way at the moment. So what you don't know and understand in deep technical terms, I have colleagues who do. So it's how we work together and collaborate and bring the best out in each other.
Do you find it's about sort of they want you to understand the business, or what's?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and in the CPO role, having come through the HR route, it is then a role where, as well as being responsible and accountable for that people function, we're also responsible and accountable for an organisation. So it's different, isn't it? And you're looking a lot more broadly whilst representing what is that function in its own entirety.
And so when you talk about that breadth, would you say, because you said you've been in retail and financial services and now you're in a charity, how would you see how different are they? Are they very different or the same? What would you say?
Similarities and difference, I think. So different, definitely different cultures for sure. If you think across, well, definitely financial services and the charity that I work for, there is that combination of being regulated while also looking to be innovative and responsive to opportunities and change and uncertainty. So there's that, we're always striking that similar balance in that regulated environment. And then retail, probably quite different again, actually, definitely culturally. So able to just draw on completely different experiences from them all and bring that together, which I think stands anybody up quite well for a role where you are trying to think a lot more broadly.
And with that then, so when you made the step into the CPO, did you come in as CPO, or did you evolve? Yeah. So what made you decide that was your next move? And have you got any secrets as to if someone's thinking, I'd like that to be my move, what sort of tips would you have for people there?
Yeah, so I think definitely at the point of making this move, I was definitely looking for something with a different level of meaning. So again, probably because I'd spent almost 20 years at that point in HR and practicing, that discipline. What I was looking for was a real sort of sense of purpose and meaning. So bringing that same background, obviously, and looking to evolve with the changing world of work, if you like. But I was definitely searching for a different sense of purpose. And I don't know if that was to do with my tenure in HR roles, or whether it was changes for myself, and in my sort of colleague life cycle. I don't know quite what it was, but I was definitely looking for that meaning. So to be able to come into a role like this, which is primarily around being able to develop strategy and really think about how we can achieve business goals through our people, it's a perfect opportunity to draw the parallels and really think about how we can deliver that through colleague experience, and deliver a great experience and career opportunities for colleagues. So yeah, it was definitely meaning I was looking for, and it's definitely delivered on that.
And you're getting meaning through being part of a charity again. I suppose it's very purposeful what you're doing there, but also meaning by that CPO role, because it's the sort of putting the purpose into the strategy. Why are we doing it? Like, what are the people? Is that what it is about aligning?
It is, and where we think every day about our beneficiaries, who are our learners, and our customers, being the learners, being the providers, if you like. It's about sort of centering ourselves on people, the people that we serve, and also making sure that colleagues that work with us actually experience that learning experience too. So that's been very much at the heart of the strategy, to look at how we can deliver those business outcomes for our learners, but actually through the learning lens ourselves, and really think about colleagues and their learning and career experiences themselves, which has been at the heart of putting that strategy together. So yeah, I think for anybody aspiring to a role like this, it's really thinking about how you would like to have that meaning and impact, and how you can really shape that through strategies, but really linking up the business objectives with people strategy, and how we serve customers and beneficiaries ultimately through the colleagues that we serve in HR.
It's definitely connecting it all together, isn't it?
That's it.
Absolutely. And would you say there's anything, if someone's aspiring to that CPO role, that you'd want them to have experience in, that might help you, be able to demonstrate you can do that? Because if you think about CIPD surveys and things like that, often sort of say that we're not strategic enough, or that those are the sort of things that we need to do more of. Is there any way people can build that experience as you come through other type of HR roles?
Yeah, so I think there's so many transferable skills and experiences into HR, and certainly into the CPO role. I think the biggest difference for me, and the skill that I know that I need to bring to this role, is around navigating uncertainty. So we just look at the context that we're operating in. It tends to be in a changing world. HR any organisation look to HR to be able to steer us through, as you know, quite unprecedented times like we've had lately, and we're almost expected to be that expert, if you like. And you know what, that's great, and what a privilege, but sometimes we need to understand that ourselves. So I think being able to operate in a way where there are bound to be uncertainties, and that we understand, that we seek to understand, and we actually thrive in that space of being able to navigate uncertainty, ambiguity, and bring as much clarity as we can in those times, so that we can deliver value, but actually being comfortable in that space of uncertainty, I think it's a skill, and it's a growing need, I think, in this role, to be able to really best respond and seek out the opportunities and evolve with the times that I consider to be opportunistic. We were also an industry that can be quite resistant to new ways, different ways, because we ourselves are bound by a lot of policies, procedures, that's bound to be there. But getting the balance of the two, I think, is definitely beneficial in this role, and enjoying that even more so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a really interesting angle, because I can imagine that some personality types are more or less comfortable with change / uncertainty, right? And so if you're somebody who really likes certainty, you feel like you need to have all the answers, and that might stop you from going for a CPO role, because you don't feel you have that. But when in actual fact, no one has all the answers, and half of the benefit is trying to come up with the best solution, whether it's with other people, or deciding what the next decision is. Even if you have to change it in future. So it's almost, and I feel like if you feel like you don't like uncertainty, then that's going to play into the whole sort of imposter complex, where you feel like you should know the answers, but you just don't.
Yes, I think so. And imposter syndrome is absolutely, it's there, isn't it? It's a thing. It can come and go for all of us. That's definitely not different in a role like the CPO role, or any executive role for that matter. And I think what is really important is during those uncertain times where we can't be certain, do you know what, we'd be curious. So for example, NCFE, we're making shifts towards a continuous learning culture, whereby it gives us the absolute empowerment to to ask questions, to be curious, to seek out what we can in terms of clarity in uncertain times, and that's enough. So learning culture, I think, is really key to that. Role modelling that in a role like this, I think, is really important, not just in terms of the people or HR function, but in terms of the wider organisation as well, culturally. And then I think in a leadership and management capacity, coaching is a really important skill as well, because actually, as you say, we don't always have the answers. We don't need to have the answers. We need to ask some really good questions and hold space for our colleagues to be able to really think and reflect, and shape those solutions that we're uncertain around. So that for me has been the key. That's the way to approach that. And then we can almost confidently embrace uncertainty and reframe it as an opportunity.
And because you are being curious and you're coaching and listening to other people, you're probably reducing the risk there, but because you're gathering information from other people and you're all collectively making the best situation given the information that's out there.
We're moving away from almost an inherent resistance to actually that ability to be ready almost. And I think in any CPOs definitely, but within this industry, we need to help our workforce be ready for the future, and we don't know what that looks like. So being able to role model that and use some of those skills to navigate it puts us in a more confident position to be able to do that.
Did you learn that, or would you say that's you naturally?
Naturally, I would probably say. There's a lot of learning, believe me. Learning every day. And I think it's important to be, we talk a lot about psychological safety, don't we? And that vulnerability to be able to speak up and learn. And that is something, I must say, it is natural, but I do that every day quite proudly. We surround ourselves with experts and colleagues who either know the answers or can share that space to think and reflect together. And I think that's definitely the way forward in these times. We talk a lot about connection, about collaboration. I think that's the value of human connection.
It's very much with the curiosity thing, doesn't it? Psychological safety, being curious, open to learning, not having to have all the answers.
That's right. That's right. And I think in our field of work, it's important that we remember we're colleagues too. So, like I say, we can be the function that is expected to be able to support, to coach, to guide. And we often speak, certainly at NCFE, with our people team around the importance of remembering we're colleagues too. So it's remembering that we serve each other and just invest in ourselves and our learning as well. And sometimes the best thing we can give ourselves is some space to think and reflect, because then the clarity comes. I
mean, and I know you actually got coaching because we met through a mutual friend and a coach, didn't we? And that's one of the things actually role models that, because getting coaching to invest in yourself. That's right.
How important in any role, but particularly within a HR role where that can be forgotten, because we're often thinking of others. That's what we do. We serve our colleagues, but it's really important that we do that, help each other within a function like this, but equally invest in ourselves. We see too often, don't we, the impact of that. Or I read about great HR professionals leaving the industry, and that's really sad, isn't it? But like with any industry, we can face that burnout if we're not careful, and it's good to be preventative in that sense, isn't it? And invest, see that coming and invest in ourselves in that way, and feel open to doing that.
I mean, that's an interesting angle, actually, because we talked didn't we, about HR through COVID and various things like that, and often we've done lots of stuff on well-being for HR people, etc. And often I find it's the how to look after other people information that's downloaded more than the look after ourselves. But actually, if you're talking about something like coaching, that might not feel, as like traditional well-being, but it absolutely is a way in which you are thinking and giving yourself that headspace, which it could be preventative for burnout in a learning way, as opposed to having to go and have a massage or whatever that
absolutely. It can be those quite simple things, but doing those habitually and making sure that you take time to do that has been something, definitely a theme of late. I would say really important in a role like this.
Brilliant. So then if we reflect back over your whole career, Are there any particular successes or challenges that would be useful that you'd share with us that other listeners might find good to learn from?
Yeah, so I think in terms of challenges, shall we say, I think we mentioned the imposter syndrome. That really can, there's almost no sense to it almost. It can come and go, whether it's to do with, role changes or organisation changes. For some reason, it keeps rearing its ugly head, doesn't it, for a lot of HR colleagues, I would say. And I think in a CPO role, it's absolutely fine to acknowledge that as well. Nobody should think that almost they're in a situation where they shouldn't be having that. And I think it's just about acknowledging it, isn't it? So that can be a challenge at times. But again, I think if we see ourselves as not working to a hierarchy, but working to a network, and knowing that we've got great colleagues and wider acquaintances around us, it's about how we surround ourselves with those people to be able to really support. So as you know, I've drawn on different support networks internally, externally, and I find that really helps me to validate that and understand those reasons and be able to really sort of almost put a bit of a volume on some of that imposter syndrome and what is ultimately self-doubt at times. It helps to really be able to understand it and relate to others, and then be able to almost acknowledge it's there, and there's maybe a reason for that, because look, I'm going off and doing these things and building my network around me, and that's really helpful. But then actually being able to dial it down a bit, to say, no, this is good, I've got what I needed myself or the people around me, and I can do my best work, which is what I'm here to do. So that's an interesting challenge personally. And then I think if I think to some successes, I mentioned coaching. I think that's a fantastic approach that I think we can really advocate for as CPOs, and particularly in people functions as well. So again, really holding space for others, not always knowing the answers, but being able to really ask great questions and coach is something that I think in helping in any organisation leaders to do that, we're actually role modelling to leaders what we'd like to see them doing with their teams as well. So I would say coaching and embedding a coaching culture into the organisation has been a success actually through a few different roles that I've done. I've found that to always be a great way. And by practicing that, you become quite a good coach and you get to coach yourself as well. So a little bit of self-coaching going on is a good mindset to have.
So you created that habit, and would you, in terms of creating coaching cultures in organisations, have you had other things that you've done that have been particularly effective? Obviously, you've said you role model it. What other things have you done that have helped? Because I think lots of people want a coaching culture. What have you done that has enabled?
So an example of something we do currently at NCFE, we've got our approach to learning, if you like, is micro based at the moment. So almost we have a learn it, share it, apply it model where small amount of micro learning, the share it piece is communities coming together, which we realise is something I think we really want in this hybrid way of world, to come together and connect and certainly learn and share together. And then the apply it bit is how we go off and really realise the value and the impact of the learning. So that's the approach we take. But when it comes to coaching, we actually just have some really short bite-sized modules that either colleagues go through individually or they can go through in teams. So it forms a really nice 5-10 minute session for, in team meetings. You can lift and drop them around the organisation, and then really come back to it in terms of the value that it's added. So I would almost say it's just that micro learning, but then the really important part is practicing it. And we've got an internal coach network actually of qualified coaches who then help to really sort of embed that approach through the organisation, which is really beneficial actually.
So you've got your micro learning, so everyone knows enough theory about it, but then you've also got the people who have got the skills, who are sort of like train the trainer model and able to really bring it to life and embed it and help people really capture those skills or practice them.
That's right. Another thing that we've introduced are some leadership principles. So really quite simply, on in addition to the values and behaviours that we have for all of our colleagues in the organisation. For our leadership community, we've got some very simple principles, almost based on a 6Cs model, but that's based on coaching. So it's just thinking about those words. So we've got connect, we've got care, we've got curiosity, we've got clarify, challenge, and commit. We've got a model to almost work through that's becoming quite memorable now, the more that we practice it, that just helps us to think in any situation where we really want to use our leadership practice. It might be an easy solution to jump to an answer for somebody, but actually we realise that's probably not going to be the right answer. What we need to do is step back, give this a little bit more time, use that model, and actually connect with people to be able to come to their own solutions with our help. So yeah, between a series of micro learning modules, the practice sessions, and then the work that we're doing with our leaders around their practice, it's really helping to embed that different way of thinking and approaching.
And how long has that taken?
Yeah.
How long has that taken for you to feel successful? It sounds quite a holistic approach.
Well, this is another learn. So we can be quite impatient about these things, but culture does not change overnight, does it? So we're taking the wins along the way and looking at those important measures, and some of it, a lot of that comes through surveys that we conduct with our colleagues, with our leaders, and certainly get a sense of that from a metric point of view, if you like. But it's in the quality conversations that we have as well, and just the way that we're able to pick up that new approaches are helping to land longer term impact, which is that's really pleasing. But it's definitely taking time, and that's where we need to be patient, isn't it?
And keep on reinforcing, absolutely, because it can go back quite quickly in culture, can't it? I mean, that sounds like really a good success. And what's interesting is there's lots and lots of levers to it. It's almost like, more and more came out. I like your sort of C's thing, and how this then also links with your curiosity, holding space for people. They're all interlink in terms of the sort of things that you've described that have become good successes.
They do, and then it's been really important that we're able to, for all those involved, can see the impact that this has. So to really to encourage what can be perceived as time poor people to invest in a coaching approach, we need to see those longer term measures. And so it's really thinking about what they are, and actually it is around our long term impact. It's about linking through those approaches to business outcomes further down the line. And as we're able to do that and then share those stories back, that's really helping to shift beliefs, if you like, to really encourage people to want to take that action, different action I might add, and really understand how that plays through to our results. That's a journey as well, for sure, but I find storytelling really helpful. So being able to play back those examples of where it's working really well, bit of a domino.
And sharing those anecdotes and stories so people bring it to life. I mean, what's interesting about what you just said there, when we were talking earlier about the uncertainty and people being comfortable with ambiguity and that sort of thing, one of the tricky things, and being curious, etc., one of the tricky things is that you also hear that we're always supposed to be evidence-based, in inverted commas, which can make you almost feel a little bit paralyzed as to what to do. But then what you just talked about is, and I think this is what actually truly being evidence-based is trying things, looking for impact, measuring it. If it works, then coming back again, which is also being evidence-based, but you've got to find somewhere to start. You can't always have evidence, that this is how you do it. You have theory, but theory might not apply to a charity or the different organisations. So you have to almost test it out, use your common sense, apply a combination of your understanding of the organisation, of what theories are and what people are telling you, and put it together, and then see if it works. And that for me is actually quite an interesting angle on what evidence-based can look like.
That's right. And for particularly leaders, having within our goals, if you like, those outcomes that we want as a result of our leadership practice. So really thinking about, if I invest differently in the way I lead and lead people around me, can I link through the contribution there to the impact? Yes, I can, because it might be in our organisation results, it might be in our social impact, it might be in the way we can attract and retain. There is always a link through. And again, it's really important, coming back to coaching, that reflection happens so that we understand how that's contributed. Because if we can do that and play those stories back and those examples, we will want to do that more. And something we regularly talk about is our role here is to lead, and that is an action. It's not our title. And so it is in those actions within our leadership practice that we can and are having that impact or not. And if not, again, playing back, what is the impact of not? It's the absolute opposite, and that becomes a cost to the organisation. So it's being able to articulate and link, I think, practice through to impact, and then tell those stories back all through really great coaching conversations.
Yeah, you remind me again of one of the things I always think as about coaching. It's easy to think, oh, it's about blue sky solving stuff. But one of the things I used to see, say, with working with salespeople, is sometimes things would be going well, and sometimes people would go off the boil. And the reality is, actually, coaching was helping people. It's just as effective to kind of coach someone to do something new or to improve something, as it is actually coaching people so that they have self-awareness about what they're doing right as well, so that you go, oh, that worked, then you can apply it. Because lots of successful people don't know what their secret sauce is. So both, there's lots of ways in which coaching is really important. Coaching for high performance, and all other types of coaching.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Different angle you just reminded me of there. Okay, so final question then, Helen, if you were going back 20 years and or you're going back to your degree and deciding where you're going to go, what tips would you be at the start of your career? What would you say to yourself?
Never stop learning. So that learning mindset, I think, carries you through the career, and it doesn't stop. I think I've probably learned more recently than I have it in a very long time. So I definitely think understanding that this is a long-term investment in yourself, and that we're always learning, I think helps us to navigate, as we say, different and uncertain times. Different is good as well. So sometimes we can almost think that change is happening around us, and what does that bring? Actually, for me, it is just about understanding it and seeking to understand and the benefit of difference and change. Absolutely. So I think learning, navigating with that sort of reframe around opportunity is helpful. Enjoying the journey as well. We get one, don't we? So I think that's really important to do. In the sense of our resilience, we want to keep going, we want to enjoy it, we want to be able to reflect and tell a great story at the end of the day. So I think it's seeing our careers that way for sure. But going way back, I probably just didn't understand at the very start that it's everything is about understanding the value we can add and being able to measure that impact, because that in any, especially HR career, it's often the intangibles, and actually it's about putting that accountability on ourselves to be able to really understand that, reflect back, and be able to really tell ourselves, that's the value that we've added. It tends to be an intangible thing. So definitely taking that space and time to think and reflect is something I probably would have done sooner had I known.
Yeah, try to reflect along the way, capture those things that you're doing right, holding space, comfortable with uncertainty, backing yourself. There's lots of good stuff there. But I mean, clearly you've done the right things along the way. So congratulations. Helen, thank you so much for coming on the HR Uprising podcast and sharing your story. I'm sure it will be inspirational to our listeners.
You're most welcome. Thank you very much for having me. Lovely to speak to you today.
I really hope you found this week's episode useful and enjoyable. If you did, perhaps you could recommend us to a friend or colleague, or give us a review on your platform of choice. It really helps new listeners to find us. Now, you can access links to any of the information mentioned in this show via the website www.hruprising.com. Further free resources are also available at www.actus.co.uk. There you can also find out more about our software and training solutions. Finally, why not join our LinkedIn group, the HR Uprising, to share ideas and collaborate with other like-minded people professionals. Thank you for listening to the HR Uprising podcast.